Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. We begin with a wrap-up of major stories from Nigeria's seat of power.
President Muhammadu Buhari attended the 50th anniversary of the United Nations Environmental Programme in Nairobi, Kenya. While in the country, the president participated in a high-level opening segment of the 50th anniversary of UNEP. He also met with the Executive Secretary of the UN Convention to Combat Desertification, Mr. Ibrahim Tawa. The president returned to the country afterwards, instead of leaving immediately for the United Kingdom for his medical checks. Governors of the All Progressives Congress say the National Convention scheduled for March 26 in Abuja will hold. Chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, Governor Atiku Bagudu of Kebbi State, stated this after the governors met with President Buhari.
We came to discuss the National Convention, which is slated for March 26, and are working hard to ensure that on March 26 we have our convention and elect our national officers, and that remains the case. The 22 governors of APC are united behind the party and behind the Mr. President.
President Muhammadu Buhari has approved $8.5 million for the immediate evacuation of about 5,000 Nigerians stranded in Ukraine. The Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Zubairu Dada, says the approval came after a joint memo presented by both the Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development at a Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. The evacuees started arriving in Abuja, the nation's capital, on Friday morning. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has commissioned the Bankers House of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. During the ceremony, he declared that Nigeria is set for great heights with the resilience potential of its people. Professor Osinbajo received the pioneer cohort of the Africa Initiative for Governance and Oxford University's Blavatnik School of Government Public Service Leadership Program. He says a well-trained, knowledgeable, and well-motivated public service is needed for an effective service delivery and excellent performance. The National Assembly has granted financial and administrative autonomy to all local governments across the country. It has also voted for independent candidacy in elections and separated the office of the Attorney General of the Federation from that of the Minister of Justice. Lawmakers, however, voted against pension for presiding officers and threw away all gender bills. Students under the ages of the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, have staged peaceful protests to demand the end to the ongoing one-month warning strike embarked upon by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU.
Honorable Minister, sir, we saw it on social media. You celebrated your son who graduated in a country, a university outside this country. We appreciate that. Our parents also have that money to send us outside the country. But we are in this country, then we should enjoy what we are paying for. So we want an adequate funding of education in this country. Honorable Minister, our message is we want to go back to class.
A second meeting to resolve the impasse between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities failed to end the industrial action, which is already in its third week.
I don't think that we'll waste too much time in dotting the T's and I's, as I've said, because we have agreed on certain things and put timelines on them. So if there are timelines that 1 week or 2 weeks, there are some of the issues we discussed, and the assignment was given to both ASU and to the government side to conjointly deal with. So I'm hopeful that with this meeting we'll be able to arrange for us to meet ourselves halfway and reach a final agreement.
The federal government is blaming the erratic power supply in Abuja and some parts of the country on a reduction in hydro capacity owing to the dry season. The Minister of Power, Mr. Abubakar Aliyu, told State House correspondents during the ministerial weekly briefing that the government, under the Siemens Presidential Power Initiatives, is working to ensure optimum supply of gas to facilitate speedy restoration of power in the shortest possible time.
From the low capacity of the hydro water in the dams and the challenges we're having in the repairs currently undergone in some of the generators. So this causes all these power outages.
Welcome back. Several bills beneficial to women were rejected by the National Assembly. The bills had to do with the request for 111 special seats for women, indigenship status for women, citizenship status for women, 35% representation of women in party leadership, and more appointive positions for women in government. Following this situation, the women protested at the gate of the National Assembly. Please watch this.
The women converged on the National Assembly roundabout just by the Three Arms Zone. A quick charge from their conveners and they're off to the National Assembly. The gates are locked and security personnel are stationed behind the gates. But this doesn't deter the women who bear placards and protest signs, chanting protest songs. This protest is coming a day after the National Assembly voted against 5 gender bills in the constitutional amendment process.
A constitution cannot appear discriminatory on itself. So the constitution discriminates against women, and the word "e" was used entirely in the constitution, as if the constitution was made for the men. In 235 places. And no interpretation clause. And no interpretation clause of what the "e" means. The 2 places where the constitution talked about women were places where they were discriminatory, where they wanted to bring the issue of child marriage. Talking about who is an adult and says when a woman is married, the woman is an adult. In a country where we know that 10-year-old, 12-year-old are being forced to marry. So, and if you look at even the consideration, and that's why I said it's the minimum irreducible, that issue didn't come up as one of the issues that they want to change because they want to continue to do that.
As women, we will come together, put more pressure, create more awareness, continue the advocacy and the push for us to replace those men with women that we think can represent us. Because we feel that any decision without us cannot achieve anything meaningful for women. And that is our position, basically.
We feel wounded because even the First Lady went to them. The First Lady was in both houses. And then you have the Second Lady, who came in, the wife of the Vice President, to witness them. And they did that. Yes, the Speaker vetoed the issue of 20% for women. 35% of affirmative action was 1995. Nigerian government went into it. Nigerian government signed that in Beijing. And we are even debating 20%. What are you telling women in the country? This is not the days where we don't have women graduates. We have women in all the spheres of our lives. We have millions of them who are professors. And so what are you telling us now, that you don't see women that you can appoint? Correcting the imbalance of decision making in your population is not, you are not doing women a favor. We are talking of the quality of lives. We are talking of the quality of lives of Nigerian women and Nigerian girls.
The protesters are met by a delegation from the National Assembly.
As we are here, we have been mandated by the Senate. And anywhere you see a committee of the Senate, by our rules, it is the Senate that is there. So please, I understand you are saying you want to see the presiding officer. The question is, the business of the Senate has to continue, but at the same time, we must listen to you. So that explains why we were selected to come here on directive. And if we leave here, haven't listened to you, we are going back to report back in plenary again what we've heard from you.
The protesters refuse to be addressed by the delegation and insist on seeing the Senate President or the Speaker of the House of Representatives. The protesters also threatened to sanction the lawmakers who voted against laws favorable to women.
As far as we are concerned, something can be done about it, because they still have tomorrow to still look at the Constitution. So we are asking them, the best thing for them to do right now is to get back those bills and have a revote on them and do the right thing. Because it's even embarrassing. I was today chatting with a friend of mine from Uganda, and she just could not understand how men will vote against citizenship.
The Minister of Women Affairs agrees with them by issuing a subtle threat. She also states the position of the executive.
What happened yesterday was most unfortunate and a big show of shame. But I urge all Nigerians to help us pray for the men that killed this bill yesterday in the National Assembly. And I want to assure you that all hope is not lost. I've reassured Nigerian women that we should not be daunted, we should remain resilient, and we have already put in place strategies. Last night we all met, the key civil society organizations and other women activists. We are strategizing with the female members in the both houses of assembly, and I want to assure you that Nigerian women will not give up. We will keep pushing until we achieve the affirmative action. Other strategies are also put in place, which I will not disclose now. But we are putting strategies towards the 2023 elections, and we know what to do.
Prior to voting, the wife of the president, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, had observed a plenary session in a move to push for the passage of the gender bills. The wife of the vice president followed in her step by attending the plenary session on the day of the voting. These advocacies did not yield the needed results. However, the women groups are vowing not to let go on the issue.
My guest on the program is Cynthia Mbamalu, a dedicated human and gender rights advocate and a development practitioner, a lawyer by profession with special focus on comparative constitutional law. She specializes in human and women rights advocacy, constitution, election and governance issues, and is director of programs at Yaga Africa. Is there such a thing as gender equality? Are lawmakers mistaking equality of the sexes with equality of spouses? What was wrong with these bills, so much so that they got such a resounding no from so many lawmakers? And the most pressing question of all, what next for Nigerian women? Cynthia Mbamalu, welcome to Dateline Abuja.
Thank you for having me on the show.
You know, I saw you at the protest, and I remember the feeling on that day. It was mostly sadness. A lot of us had cried before we got there. And I remember Auntie Abiola was trying to get all of us to, you know, be in the mood and remember that the protest is for a reason, and we have to focus on what it is that the reason for this protest is. But a lot of us weren't really shocked at the actions of the National Assembly at the time when the gender equality bill had to be stepped down for a bit, you know, because they needed to get more clarification on a lot of things. A lot of women, myself included, got the message. We kind of got, okay, this is where this National Assembly is headed. But talk to us about how you felt. You've been doing women advocacy for so long. You're a constitutional lawyer. Talk to us a bit about the impact this decision has had on women in Nigeria.
Yeah, you know, when you started with the mood
on the protest ground, a lot of us, the day of the voting, it's almost seemed like just watching the vote and hearing the lawmakers scream, no. You know, there's something about when someone says no to you in a nice way, you would feel not so hurt. But when someone says no to you in a mocking and a very undermining way, it almost looks like your agitation and your issues did not have value. And I think that was what was really hurtful, that the lawmakers in considering this, especially in the House of Representatives, the way they vehemently rejected the proposals and the way they made a mockery of some of the proposals just showed that our lawmakers did not really understand the issues, did not really understand issues around women, they understand the importance of the Constitution, and did not understand the principles within the Constitution. And I always want to make reference to the preamble in the Constitution. It talks about how we've resolved to give ourselves a Constitution that promotes welfare and security of everyone. And then the preamble mentions upholding principles of equality, freedom, and justice. And if you come to chapter 2 of the Constitution, you see it's also enunciated freedom, equality, and justice. Equality was used in the Constitution. So if you think about the several times issues on gender has either been thrown out, there's always been argument around the use of the word equality and things like, oh, the women can be equal to men. That was one of the protests against the GEO bill, Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill, in December last year. The two senators stood up and said the title, Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill, is presuming that women and men are equal, and within the religions, the dominant religions in Nigeria, women and men are not equal.
Let's go into this bill in itself.
Yeah.
A lot of people have criticized these lawmakers. I'm going to get to what next in a bit. But let's talk a bit about, you know, the advocacies that may have gone into ensuring that these bills didn't fail. Were there any such advocacies?
Oh yeah, there were lots. In fact, the bill on the reserve seat, for instance, so after post the public hearing, a lot of women-led groups and CSOs made presentations on women. However, at the committee level, surprisingly, when they were considering bills, there was no bill that was adopted on women representation in the parliament. That's national and state assemblies. No bill. And all the bills that were proposing 35% affirmative action or 2/3 represent, at least not less than 1/3, with several levels of proposals. So people drafted bills learning from what other countries had. But those bills did not make it in. So the reserve seat bill was a product from the conversation from the committee, from the Constitutional Review Committee. When they noticed there was not, and the female legislators said, how can we have nothing for women representation in the government when this is very important? And there was a conversation of what proposal would work. So this reserve seat bill was an agreement by both the men and women in the House of Representatives to draft something that would not be easily challenged and thrown out, which is why this bill had over 80 lawmakers as co-sponsor in the House, including the Speaker. So I don't know what level of advocacy you need again, because if you can have as much as over 80, close to 100 by the time it was in second reading, sign up to a bill, it shows that the women, the lawmakers in the House of Reps, had to lobby their colleagues.
So we'll move on to another thing that we asked for, appointments. 30% appointments.
Yeah.
And another percentage that we're asking for
in political party leadership.
Political party leadership.
Yeah.
These things look like things that we want. We want them. Why would that
things
be
that Nigeria
needs?
Yeah.
These are things that are good. But why would it be a disadvantage to a man?
Because it's the same thing. It's about access to power and resources.
Well, let's talk about the first one. The 30% appointments. Yes. Means that 70% will be men.
Yeah.
So why
we're actually pushing for 35%, but they reduced it to 20 and 10. Yeah.
So why would that be a threat?
And because for them, if you're doing 35%, it means some states will be represented by women. And the question is, whose states would have to provide a woman? So what happens to the men
in that
who
state
feel that they ought to be the next minister or the next commissioner at the state level?
Because the appointments are done by quota.
Yes. You know, federal character needs to be complied with. So you need to go across the states. So for them, the question was 35%. So whose states would be producing a woman? And what about the men in those states who believe it's their turn to become ministers or commissioners? So that was the threat. And for them, because once you look at that, it's a major challenge.
Then
and for political parties, because you know, party leadership is so powerful that they control everything in the party. They determine things around party guidelines for primaries, who has access to the ballot. A lot of things happen. And for them, beyond the woman leader role, which they love to give women, because they want women to go and mobilize. People to vote for them. It's a question, if you have more women, 35%, it already means that the men that have been in the party, the people that say, I've been in this party, it's my turn to be chairman or to be chairman for Northwest. They also do lead co-chair, deputy chairs for the different geopolitical zones, the secretary and all of this. So I've been in the party paying my dues. Why would this my dream to lead be limited to a woman coming in? Because for them, this is a restriction to the ability to lead within the party. And the other part is, if you put women in, they will take over. You hear this happening, you hear these conversations going. And we've heard some of the lawmakers say without any shame that, oh, women are taking over in the homes. They now want to come and take over our political parties and take over National Assembly. And we don't know how to explain to them, we don't want to take over. We just want to work with you as equal partners in development, to be part of the system. So for them, is the fact that if you put women at executive position, 35%, it means you're going to have more women at the closed meetings where decisions are made around who gets tickets. And there's a likelihood that these women will be pushing more women or more candidates that the average old patriarch politician would not want to support. Because there's also a tendency for a woman to actually ask, what value does this candidate bring? Can we bring candidates that would add value to the political space? And for them, that is a threat to their power, to decision to make. They make all decisions in closed doors, late hours. So if you bring women, you have to review some of your plans. You can't have women as part of your executive and your sexually harassing candidates, female candidates, and the women will sit back and watch you. Or you're going after their daughters and they'll sit back and watch you. So there's a lot of things that has a lot of practices that are really major threats to our democratic development that they've had for so long, and they believe infusing women would get more women speaking on those issues and would expose those things they like to hide. So for them, it's a threat to their position, which they believe, I don't think of wonder, they always tell it and they always say, is our party. Let us decide. Don't use the Constitution to force us to do things.
Well, Cynthia, when it comes to these kinds of conversations, it doesn't end. It's a conversation that goes on forever. True. But I want to thank you so much for being with us on Dateline Abuja, and good luck with the advocacy that you do.
Thank you so much. And thanks to the media for always keeping these issues out. I'm out there in the front burner. We need it. Thank you.
People fear what they do not understand. Can I be honest? I wasn't shocked at the rejection of the pro-women bills. When the gender equality bill was stepped down a few weeks ago, a lot of us women got the message. I think it's important going forward to highlight the ways in which gender equality is such an asset to men especially. This acrimony developing because of what many perceive as a war of the sexes is unnecessary. Let me let you in on a little secret in Channels Television. All the major beats, desks, and departments are headed by women. And this decision, whether done consciously or unconsciously, has been an immense asset to us all. Think about it. And while you do, sing a song for women everywhere. Let it ring around the world and never cease. Sing a song for women everywhere. Equality, development, and peace. That's Dateline Abuja this week. Please let us know the happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handles showing right now on your screen. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kayla Megwa. See you next time.